today I'm going to be showing you guys what a $600 mystery build looks like from our website here. So what this includes, you're going to get the AAP-01 is included in that $600. And then from there, if you don't have any preferences or if we didn't communicate on what styles and colors and things you're looking at, then it's entirely up to me what to put in this gun. So what we've done here is I've already hydro dipped this shell and applied a paint job here to give it just a really abstract look. So today we're going to be installing everything, giving you guys a better understanding of what you're getting. So for $600 you can pretty much upgrade every area, the accuracy, the speed, the longevity, the trigger response, and aesthetics, of course. So let's go into the upgrades here. So for accuracy, we're going to be installing the neck speed hop-up chamber. I also have the red dial for the red chamber. Then we have a 129mm 6.03 Action Army barrel and the Stalker Bucking 80 degrees. Okay, so that's for accuracy. For trigger response, the absolute god tier upgrade, we have our smooth pull trigger bar version 2, as you can see in champagne, with the TTI Victor trigger, and of course our trigger spring. I've chosen the red one for this because I like the red one. So that's for trigger response. For longevity, the famous TTI hammer sets. This set is phenomenal. It comes with every component that you need for the hammer housing. They're all polished CNC. So this is really going to help your gun last a long time. Additionally, we have the spring upgrade set. So we're pretty much replacing majority of the springs with the stainless steel springs to increase longevity, reduce rusting, wear and tear, and corrosion, and things like that. So additionally, we have an auto sear spring. This is important, especially if you're a semi-auto only build. Aesthetics here, we have a magazine release in silver. We also have the quick selector charging kit from TTI. I'm a fan of this because it adds a little bit of heft to it, so you get a little more felt recoil, and you also have a tangible charging handle. Optional if you want to switch semi to full auto depending on what your field allows. It's always good to have options. Last but certainly not least, we have our nozzle spring, stainless steel. So good for feeding, good for longevity, and let's get started here. Alright, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to install this hop-up chamber barrel setup. So it'll pretty much be a one-to-one replacement of this. I went ahead and just pulled this out. So you can go ahead and just put this in the box out of the way because this stuff is going to replace that directly. So we'll take out the barrel. It's a very satisfying sound. Then we'll put the bucking on. Normally I put the stock components in the upgrade kit that it came with, but since we just took out the full assembly, there's no need to do that. Okay, so we're going to install the bucking here. Line up the grooves with the internal groove and slide it on. Okay, always good to check. Make sure your window is aligned. Okay, so that's good. That's the easy part. Now we're going to do this neck speed setup. I am going to keep this for garbage. Okay, I really like the next speed hop up because one, it looks really cool, but two, it allows you to adjust without any tools. So that's good. Specifically, this is the hard nub version. So when these first came out, they came out with a soft, spongy nub. And there's nothing wrong with this, but if you really want optimal performance, you want to go with the hard nub. And I'll show you the hard nub in a second. But basically, the squishy one would wear out over time, and you don't really want that. So we're going to go ahead and unscrew everything just so I can show you the guts. Okay, dump that out. So this is what I was talking about. This is the hard nub. So it's a piece of metal here. Metal instead of the sponge. Okay. We'll also unscrew this. We'll take that out. So we're going to slide the barrel sleeve on there with the C clip. Oops. And just slide everything home like that. Go ahead and push that in. You can take your screwdriver and slide it home like that. Now we're going to turn it over. This part, I do recommend putting some Loctite on this screw here, and all the screws for that matter. We're going to put that in the middle hole. Okay, so that's in there. Wipe off the excess. And now we need to put the red dial on. So before it was black and red. There's nothing wrong with the black and red, but why not do red and red? So we're going to take this stuff off. I believe we need the O-ring. Yep, so we need the O-ring. Go ahead and put that O-ring on there. I'm going to keep this dial in case you want to do a different build later on, because this red dial I pulled from another build. Okay. And now we're going to put the indicator on the top here, and it should just slide right on there. Next, we have our hop-up arm and nub set up. So we'll put that spring in there. So we've got the spring in there. This is like the hardest part. And now we're going to put the spring in place with the nub. Like that. Okay, so we're going to hold this in place. We're going to put our top part back on here. Put these screws, a little bit of Loctite on them. And we got to switch. Sometimes I wish I had more arms. And these screws are not magnetic. So I put a little bit of Loctite on the screwdriver, but I'll wipe that off. Alright, so now we have that in place. Just make sure everything is in where it needs to be. Okay, now that we have that in there, we're going to put our dial on. That looks nice, red on red. So leave it on 0. And we'll put this in, Loctite it of course, and slide that down. Alright, I think that looks pretty good. And you can see here we can apply hop up. I'm going to put it all the way on. Just to see, make sure it's working. See that there. Okay, so we'll let that sit, kind of break in the rubber a little bit. Put this, we can actually install this into our upper now. So what I do is I put it in through the front like this, because it's not going to go in through all the way. And now we can screw in the sides here. Somewhere I have the screws, hold on. Alright, I've got the screws. A little bit of Loctite here. These ones you don't really have to worry about too much because they're kind of protected in there. So let's go ahead and get those in. Oops. Roll that over. Boom. And now we can slide it home like that, and you can see it through the top. And you can access it now this way. Just making sure it's working. Okay, so we'll leave it on 9. Now we have to do these bottom holes. These ones, usually from the factory, they come with Loctite on them. But we'll go ahead and plop that in. That was a lot. And let's get the other one. There we go. Alright, so we have the hop-up installed. While we're here, let's get the front sight installed. Switch to this screw. There we go. Okay, so we pretty much have the front half done. And you can see how I put right on the bottom because it's going to like continue throughout. So I'm really excited to see this one when it's fully built. Alright, next we're going to move on to the bolt here. I personally like the stock bolt because it gives it a little bit more recoil and tactile feeling when you shoot. but also you get the utmost consistency because this is what the system was designed to use. So you're really not changing the main function of the system. So we're going to install the stainless steel nozzle spring on here, and we're also going to install the TTI selector kit. Alright, so first we need to disassemble and put the nozzle spring in. The TTI selector kit comes with a nozzle spring and a short stroke buffer. Typically I use the Jefe Airsoft stainless steel nozzle spring, which is the one I have right here. I like that one a lot better. It's a little bit longer so it fills in the space a bit more. So I'm going to put the stock one in here. And I'm going to put this away. Okay, so now we can put the nozzle spring on there. And recoil spring, you can upgrade this, but if you're using the stock one, the stock bolt, it's not entirely necessary. Just depends on what you like. Let's put that in there, and let's put that and secure this. Alright, and screw. Okay, nozzle springs in there. Now let's worry about the selector part here. I'm going to unscrew this bottom screw. And about the guts, sometimes you got to use tweezers. So we're going to take these out. You need the selector itself. You don't need this switch. So you can put the selector back, and you're going to put in the, I guess, new selector switch lever, and we're going to put the, you got to put this one in first, this arm. Okay, and now it's upside down. There we go. There, so it should be flush. And now let's screw this one back in. Okay, next we're going to have to switch back to the Allen keys, take the selector. If you're left or right-handed, it doesn't matter. You can put this one on either side. It does the same thing. And these ones come with Loctite applied already. You just screw it in. This part can be tricky. You gotta line everything up. So I like to pinch it with my left hand to hold it in place. Alright, it's in place. And now we're going to put the other one in. Okay, now that we have the screws in, let's put in the selector itself. So TTI was gracious enough to come with these 2 balls. So if you lose one, it's not a huge deal. What you do is you put in your spring. And we're going to put this one in there. And this is your actual selector. See, I just dropped it. This is like, these tiny parts are the hardest. Alright. If that doesn't work, you can rest it in place. And oh my gosh. It never works when it's on camera. I promise. Trying to do this and look through the camera is a little bit hard. Okay, so we have that. I'm just going to rest the spring on the ball like that. Hold this down. You're going to need to switch to your smaller Allen screw, and you're going to screw in the smaller grub screw, which is already Loctited. Okay, make sure it's tight. And now you can go semi or full auto at the flick of a switch. This next part is optional. I'm going to put it in just to show you. But if you're just going to be doing semi only, and you might as well just take this part out, because there's no need. But it allows you to switch with your thumb. Alright, I'm going to put this in the upper. I'm not going to put silicone oil in just yet because it's going to get all over my hands and make this, the next steps a little bit harder. But before we shoot it, then we're going to put in the oil. So let's put the top sight on. Your big Allen key. And that is that. And now, boom. Any stray parts I just put in these bags. So like this part here, extra ball, and a few of the other parts that we had. Okay, so the upper is pretty much set. Now we're gonna do the lower. So we're gonna put in the magazine release here. I always forget to do this, and I put in the hammer set first, and it just is a nightmare. So this one is extended. It is silver. It's cool. Nothing really special, but alright, and now the magazine release spring, we have the upgraded one in the AAP-01 spring upgrade set, is this big long one right here. And we're going to go ahead. This is actually a lot easier than people think. You just stick it in the hole and push back. Just like that. And then you put your, depending again if you're left or right-handed, So if you're right-handed, put it in this way and put that spring in the groove. So right-hand people there. Let's put this on, the extension. If you're using HPA, I recommend not using the extension because you can accidentally eject your adapter. And there's that. And we can test it to make sure. Okay. Alright, now we're going to move on to the trigger. So for this, we have the smooth pull trigger bar, version 2, trigger spring, and we have the TTI trigger. So I'm going to go ahead and unbox these and get these set up. I've already pulled out the stock trigger, so I'm going to put these away because we don't need them. Okay, so now we have everything unboxed. We're going to put the retaining pin in. TTI was generous enough to give us a pin. Some other brands are not. And you just line it up and slide it in there. Again, easier to do when you're not looking through the camera. Oh my gosh. Okay. There, just like that. So we've got the pin in the hole. Now it's going to stick out. So if you put it in like this, it's not going to work. So I take some pliers. Now you can just go ahead and grip it and squeeze, and you might mar up the side a little bit if you're not careful. You can always get rubber matted ones, but I'm just going to do it. Alright, so now you can see the screw is flush. Maybe it's sticking out a little bit, but it shouldn't be an issue. If it is, we can always just push it in more, but it should be good. Next, you can hook on your trigger spring. Just like that. So since I've already taken out the guts, I have the trigger housing here, and the next thing you'll need is the trigger housing pin. Okay, I forgot to mention earlier, I forgot to grab these, but this is the stainless steel extended bolt release. That's what you need, and we'll put the stock one in here. Okay, so you need the bolt release, trigger housing, spring. Oh shoot, we gotta put these pins in. 1 second. Alright, so for these pins, you're gonna want to lock tight. So we'll put in the small one on the top. Just down through the hole here. So when you're shooting, you want this screw here to be flush. But when you're installing it, you want it to go down a little bit more. This way you have more range of motion when you go to install. Alright, let's go ahead and get this in. Since we are using the spring upgrade set, we have the upgraded bolt release spring already in there. So So we'll just get this set up. I'm going to speed this along. This isn't necessarily a how-to video. I'm just showing you guys the process. And we're going to slide it in and put the pin through there. Hold everything in place. Slide it down. Connect your trigger spring. So now this is ready to drop right into your lower. So you'll take your lower and you're going to push this pin out and we're going to install that in here and put the pin back. I did hydro dip, so there might be a little bit of friction. Okay, so the pin's in. It's okay for this to stick out because we still need to put in the hammer stuff. Okay, so we've got the trigger set up. Now let's go to the hammer. Okay, let's go ahead and disassemble the hammer stuff. So I pulled this out earlier, and we're pretty much taking everything out and swapping it. Boom, so yeah, dump everything. We need the housing. I am going to keep this hammer spring because I like it. You're certainly welcome to use the spring that's included in your spring upgrade set, but I'm just going to not use that one for now. I think the stock one is fine. And for the new spring upgrade set that we're coming out with, we actually removed that little 90-degree turn and we made it closer to the stock shape to make it a little bit easier for people to install. So I'm going to put all the springs we're not using away, and the hammer parts, all that stuff, is obsolete because we are using the TTI set here. Alright, hardest first, we're going to assemble the hammer like this. Install. Force it. Take your pin. I'm going to rotate this. Okay. So what I do is I put in the pin from the back. And then I'm going to put in the correct pin through the front, but only halfway. You'll see why. Oh, too much. So we want to put in the firing pin next. Let me see. So you want to make sure that each pin is out of the middle of the hammer. Because we're going to be sliding the firing pin right in there. Okay, we'll take our firing pin, put that in, slide it, and now clamp it. Okay, I call that the Judas pin method. Okay, so now we're going to put in the disconnector this spring. You can see I'm wearing gloves. When you're doing the hammer stuff or repairs, there can be a lot of metal shavings. And if I'm doing this dozens of times a month, you know, I don't want to get metal shavings in my blood. So for this specifically, this one spring, I like to use a flat head. Hook it and force it in place like that. So now we should have proper function. Okay, next, auto sear. So we'll take the auto sear spring, tiny little guy, and let's put this one in. This one can be really hard if you have sticky fingers or if you have big fingers. We're going to slide that in there. And the pin. Test function. Okay, now we're ready to put this in our lower. One thing I forgot, the upper lock spring, the firing lock spring, fire pin lock. Put that in there. And now we'll slide that. There we go. And let's put our pin in. Okay, before I put the other stuff in, the screws and pins, we're going to test to make sure everything works. Okay, perfect. So now you see there's a lot of play in the trigger here. So it's a two-stage trigger. So that's what this top screw does. This top screw allows you to position the trigger right at the wall. So I'm going to go ahead and make that flush to the top, just like I said in the beginning. Hopefully you can see that in there. So now you can see it's like 90 degrees and it should break immediately. Alright, we've got all of the pins and screws back into their places. Now we can just admire the craftsmanship here. So quick recap, we have the extended magazine release, we have the TTI Trigger, we have the Jefe Airsoft version 2 trigger bar, Jefe Airsoft Red Edition trigger spring, TTI Airsoft hammer set, as well as the Jefe Airsoft springs in there. And for the upper, we have Jefe Airsoft nozzle spring, we have the Next Speed hop-up units, the Stalker Bucking TTI barrel, and the TTI selector. So there we go. So this is a $600 mystery build. Pretty crazy. And we're going to do a shooting test next.